Ain't no way this is Taraji. What has happened to Taraji? That's impossible. There's no way that this is Taraji. What happened to her? She looks very, very different. And everybody around her is embracing her new look.
The work. People go, you work a lot. I too. Because the math ain't math and the zeros ain't adding up, And so because you see somebody working a lot of times when it's us, it's because that one job is not going to cover you for the year.
Yeah.
I wish I could just do 2 films and be like, I'm kind of to that point now. You know what I mean? But there are actors out there that just one job a year because that's how they get paid. And I don't think people really understand the breakdown of the math. 50 Cent, if somebody goes, they made $10 million, right? You got to remember Uncle Sam is coming to take half of that off the top.
Right.
And then you have to pay your 30 or 40%, whatever you're paying your team off your gross. So you're not taking home $10 million. I know it sounds amazing, but you're not taking it home. Somebody gets paid $1 million for a film, they not seeing that $1 million in their bank account. Do the math.
Ain't no way this is Taraji. That's the reaction flooding timelines right now. She looks completely different. New face, new energy, new everything. And everybody around her is embracing it like it's just another glow-up. But according to Common, this isn't a glow-up at all. He's calling it something else entirely, a desperate, calculated move to save a career that's been quietly falling apart behind the scenes for years. Because according to people close to the situation, Hollywood has been sidelining Taraji P. Henson. Insiders say she's being framed as a liability, her name quietly tied to an alcohol narrative that exploded after that Color Purple press run went viral for all the wrong reasons. So what's actually going on with one of the most decorated Black actresses of her generation? To understand it, you can't start with the new face. You have to go back to the beginning, because this story didn't start this year. It started over 2 decades ago, with an industry that has consistently underpaid and undervalued one of its most talented performers. Taraji's first real taste of what almost being seen felt like came in 2001, with Baby Boy. Her co-star in that film, Tyrese Gibson, went on to headline the entire Fast and Furious franchise, turning that role into a career that spans 2 decades and counting. Taraji, meanwhile, kept knocking on doors that wouldn't fully open. The same thing happened again in 2005 with Hustle and Flow, a film that earned major critical acclaim. And it happened once more in 2008 with The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which finally landed her an Oscar nomination. 3 major moments, 3 chances for Hollywood to recognize what she brought to the screen. None of them turned into the career-shifting break she had clearly already earned. The Benjamin Button story alone tells you almost everything you need to know about how this industry has treated her. Taraji asked for $500,000 to take the role. The studio came back with an offer of $100,000. She pushed and managed to negotiate it up to $150,000. But by the time taxes came out and she paid her own team, her actual take-home landed around $40,000. The film went on to gross $335 million worldwide, becoming one of the biggest box office successes of that year. She's talked openly about swallowing that disparity, about not being in a financial or career position to just walk away from the role, about genuinely being happy to share the screen with Brad Pitt and Cate Blanchett, and choosing to give her best performance anyway, because that's simply who she is as an artist. She wasn't thinking about awards or critical acclaim. She was thinking about doing the work right and moving forward with grace. By the time Empire rolled around and turned her into a household name as Cookie Lyon, one of the most iconic television characters of the decade, the pattern still hadn't changed. There were no major endorsement deals, no national campaigns, nothing that matched the cultural size of that character. Cookie Lyon was everywhere. Memes, fashion moments, think pieces, and very little of that translated into real opportunity for Taraji herself. She eventually made the decision to fire her entire team over how badly her career was being mismanaged during that period. Even a planned Cookie Lyon spin-off series, something she'd agreed to only if it was handled properly, ended up getting fumbled by the same team. By 2019, during press for What Men Want, she wasn't hiding her frustration anymore. She said it plainly on camera. "Pay me my money, pay me what I deserve, we deserve it, and you need us." That wasn't the same actress quietly hoping to be noticed anymore. That was a woman done asking. And Hollywood's response wasn't to finally pay her what she'd earned, it was to start pushing her out. That tension came to a head in 2023 during her press run for The Color Purple. In an interview with Gayle King, Taraji said outright that she genuinely thought about quitting acting entirely. She said she was tired of working so hard, being gracious about it, and still getting paid a fraction of what her white and male counterparts were making for equivalent work. She used the phrase that ended up everywhere afterward, that the math wasn't mathing. After more than 20 years in the industry, with an Oscar nomination and a Golden Globe win on her resume, she still couldn't secure decent on-set accommodations or a proper changing room of her own. She said she hadn't seen a real raise since Proud Mary, years earlier. She revealed she'd almost walked away from Color Purple altogether over pay disputes. And she made clear exactly why she kept pushing through it anyway, because if she, with everything she'd already accomplished, didn't take a stand, she wasn't making things any easier for the actresses coming up behind her, the Fantasias, and the Danielle Brookses of the industry. She didn't stop at just her own experience either. She directly called out Oprah Winfrey, who produced Color Purple, over what she described as unfair conditions on set. And she wasn't left standing alone. Other prominent actresses, Gabrielle Union, Keke Palmer, Octavia Spencer, publicly backed her up in the days that followed, making it clear this wasn't just a Taraji problem. It was systemic, and everyone in that room already knew it. Hollywood didn't take any of it well. According to multiple reports, Oprah quietly distanced herself from Taraji in the aftermath, and the casting calls that had been fairly steady for years started drying up almost immediately. A narrative began circulating through the industry that she was difficult to work with, unpredictable, a liability on set, and conveniently, that narrative got pinned directly to her relationship with alcohol, giving the industry a clean, deniable excuse to quietly push her out. Taraji has been open about that part of her life too. She's talked about the pressure, the burnout, the anxiety that came with 2 decades of fighting for basic respect, and how she leaned on weed and alcohol to cope with it. But she's also been just as open about pulling back. She's said she went 5 months without drinking entirely, not because she has a problem, but because she needed clarity, needed to reset and clear out some negative energy she couldn't quite see clearly while she was in it. She still has her own wine brand, still enjoys a glass here and there, but says her body genuinely can't handle more than that anymore. She also took a soul-cleansing trip to Bali around this time, realizing that smoking and drinking weren't actually fixing the deeper professional and emotional weight she was carrying. Which brings us back to the new look everyone's reacting to right now. According to Common, this transformation isn't random, it's strategy. After years of being quietly sidelined and having her name tied to an addiction narrative she's repeatedly tried to correct, a fresh look becomes one of the only levers she has left to pull to get the industry's attention back. But Common, who's been in this business long enough to know how it actually works, doesn't think a new look is going to fix what's actually broken here. Because this was never about Taraji's talent, her credentials, or her personality. It's about an Oscar-nominated, Golden Globe-winning Black actress who had to fight for basic parity and fair treatment on set, and then got punished with a liability label for having the audacity to say so out loud. There's also the age factor sitting underneath all of this. Taraji is 55, and Hollywood has never been generous with roles for Black women once they hit that age, usually offering little beyond the church auntie, the grieving wife, or somebody's wise, cheerful mother. With roles already drying up and the industry treating her as a risk, the clock isn't exactly working in her favor right now, and that context makes the timing of this new look make a lot more sense. Fans, for their part, aren't buying the liability narrative. Comment sections have been flooded with people defending her, pointing out how common it is to watch studios import lesser-known actors and pay them more just to avoid paying Black talent what they're worth. People are calling her one of the most consistently powerful performers working today, someone who brings a depth and passion to every role that's rarely matched. A lot of that support is coming from other Black women in demanding careers who say they recognize exactly what she's describing. The exhaustion of knowing you deserve more and watching doors close anyway. At the end of the day, Taraji didn't build a career like this by accident, and she didn't start speaking up because she suddenly became difficult. She spoke up because after 20-plus years of proving herself in this industry, silence wasn't getting her anywhere either. Whether this new chapter, sobriety, self-care, a different look, and a louder voice, actually opens doors back up for her, or whether Hollywood keeps finding new reasons to look past her, is the real question nobody has an answer to yet. So what do you think? Did Taraji make a mistake by talking about her pay so openly during that press run? Or was staying quiet never actually going to change anything for her anyway? Drop your thoughts in the comments and make sure to like and subscribe for more. See you next time!